Hello, bonjour, aheo, akwaba. Welcome to episode 4 of the Liberated Self podcast with me, your host, Olivia Adsa. For all the new listeners who discovered this podcast after my latest episode with Victoria, thank you for being here. Especially if you are back with an open heart, a curious mind, and you've been patiently waiting for a new episode. I do hope you stick around. I know the last time I dropped something was way back in June. So it's been a minute, hey? So if you're still here, thank you. And I appreciate you all always for dropping in. It truly is an honor for me to have this platform to connect with you all and hold space for what I hope is our most authentic expressions in some deep, impactful conversations. Also, what did we think of our first special guest? Did we not love her? At least I do. And please to reach out if you would like to share your thoughts or any feedback at all. We would love to hear from you. And gratitude, deep, deep gratitude as well to all those who shared the feedback, who enjoyed listening to the episode and already left like a kind message on the Instagram page. I read them all and I try my best to answer them as early as possible, but I really do appreciate the few messages that we get already. It's always encouraging to hear what you think about a guest or the topic for an episode. You are also welcome to leave a comment on the podcast platform you are listening to the episodes from, if you would prefer, and if maybe it would be less time consuming for you instead of sending an email. Also, I know the intro with Victoria was a bit long before we got into the actual topic. I'm sure you could feel the excitement in my voice. I really wanted you to get to know her a bit through my eyes before you heard her speak. And I recognize that I might have gotten carried away a little bit there. So if you listen to the whole episode despite that, well, thank you so much. Other than that, I sincerely hope that you enjoyed the overall conversation as well as the topic as much as we loved recording it. It was such a pleasure. And I can almost guarantee that Victoria will be back here again at some point for us to explore another topic. Wait, I think I said at the beginning that the last time I dropped something was in June. Like, so it means it's been about 2 months. Well, almost 2 months because we are already at the end of August since I've been here. How are we almost at the end of August already anyway? The past 2 months felt like a blur, I swear. There seemed to be so much going on and nothing at all at the same time. I don't know how that's possible, but it is. And to be honest, I can't even recall what exactly happened, although my days didn't all look the same, really. Lately, I've been feeling like time is flying by and 24 hours never feels like enough. And on top of that, everything feels so intense right now. It's like I'm in a pressure cooker. As you know, there's two things going on. I'm trying to navigate my own liminal space or the in betweens of my life right now while trying to keep up with what's going on in the world. And I remember clearly in July, nurturing was my word because all I feel I had, and maybe I still have to some extent today, is the energy for taking care of myself, my little family, my loved ones, my dogs. And I have a feeling that I may not be the only one currently feeling this way. So before I go any further, I wanted to do a little check-in since I'm solo casting again and it's been a while. And that might be the whole point of me even showing up here today, who knows? So, how are you guys doing? Like, really? How have your hearts been lately? Mine is feeling extremely tender right now. You could literally just poke me and I would burst into tears. But also, to be completely honest, when am I not tender anyway? In the past, it used to bother me so much to often be like that, but it doesn't anymore. I have noticed, especially over the last 2 to 3 years at least, how good it is for me to be tender because it meant that I was being present with my every emotion instead of the usual avoidance, and I could be nurturing to my heart more often. I used to be good, very good at neglecting my needs. So being tender is that soft call back home when I've been away far too long and my body, my heart need tending. It allows me to never get to the point where I become numb to life or things happening inside and around me. And truth be told, these days, it's just hard to be a human or an adult around all this chaos, suffering, starvation, wars, everything that's going on top of our own personal life challenges. And the funny thing is, maybe not so funny, somehow we are supposed to live our lives as if it's not happening or pretend it's not happening and maybe retreat in our own bubbles. Personally, I try that, but it's hard. And how I know everything doesn't feel quite right for me, at least, is the way I have been feeling the past 2 months. If you know me, you know I always look forward to the summer month, guys. I love the sun. I swear, I love the sun, especially after moving to Canada a couple of years ago. That's when I realized how much I need the sun and I love the sun and I need that to survive. I used to constantly joke about how I'm half dead in the winter, but wait, I no longer say that because I also know the kind of power that words hold. But since I moved here, it wasn't hard for me to notice over time how I feel more alive or I simply come back to life after the winter month. As soon as the sun peeks its head, beginning spring, I automatically feel refreshed. I start waking up super early, generally with the sunrise. I don't need an alarm. I go on early morning walks, and mostly I feel happy, content because the sun, the humidity. I know not everyone will agree with me in terms of humidity, but the humidity, the warmth, and all those things that my body love and crave are back. Except this year feels different. It feels slow and inwards. It also has an undertone of melancholy. So, all I want to do, I think most days, if not spending time with my little family here, since my bigger family is not around or not in Canada, I spend a lot of time gardening and go to garden centers. There's something about having my bare hands and feet in the dirt and just tending to plants that connect me back to my roots and bring me such peace and serenity, while also listening to some music. Also, to be completely, I don't know, fair or honest, I have been going through some big life changes since February, I would say, or maybe a little bit earlier. And I think I've just been having a bit of a hard time dissociating more so recently with all that is going on inside and outside of me, since I have no choice but be in the here and now. For the first time in 6 years, I'm not such a busy bee, hustling and trying to settle down or survive in a new place. I'm just existing. I'm just being. And although it is unfamiliar territory, it is easier for me to be present with everything that shows up in life on a daily. Even as I'm saying, I'm just being. I feel like taking a deep breath because it is so true. I don't think I've ever had that kind of space before to just be and not be in survival mode like I used to. And it feels so good. And I'm sharing all this with you guys since I promised myself to only show up here with what feels true to me at the time of the recording. I never want to show up and feel like I have to perform in any way or shape. I want to be open and honest about what is moving through me in the moment. And hopefully, someone else can relate or give themselves permission to feel the feelings. Don't get me wrong, I love life. and the life I'm building with my partner. And I'm not a doom and gloom type of person. I'm really not. I'm constantly told that I'm always carry this kind of maybe naive and childlike hope or belief in everyone's inherent goodness. The belief that we can always create beauty, we can birth a better world than what we have right now for ourselves and our children. So, although I'm a realist, I'm also an extravagant dreamer because I have so many beautiful examples of people who are close to me and surrounding me, including to some extent my parents, who showed me that some dreams can be attainable because these people made something out of nothing. And I often think about how to be a good ancestor and build a beautiful legacy, not just for my children, but for the world before I leave this earth. And I have to say, for that, I have to live in my own fairy tale. I'll be in my mind a lot most days, which is fine by me as long as it sustains me. Not everyone needs to join me there, if you know what I mean. Anyway, seeing the complexity of life and how it is generally never black and white, I have just been feeling a lot of grief joy lately. This is a term I first heard from one of my mentors, guide and dearest big sister, Jin Maramba, whom I love dearly. She took me under her wings during one of the toughest moments of my life. And yeah, since I've heard her use that, it stayed with me. And particularly now, I can relate to it. And the way I understand it, and I will try to make sense of it, it's like when grief coexists with joy and deep, deep gratitude alongside lament or sorrows. So I've been making space for the current paradoxes in my body, allowing myself to feel both grief and joy at the same time. Because despite all the wrong things happening in the world right now, there are so many things that I can still be so grateful for. Even just little things. And the past month have also helped me rediscover my body's ability and capacity to hold various complex emotions all at once and not fall apart anymore. I've met myself in new beautiful ways, to be honest, and I'm grateful for that. My brother kind of reminded me like how important it is for me to remember to celebrate myself when I feel I've made some progress or changed something that I've been wanting to change for a while about myself. And it's true. He knows me. And actually everyone who knows me know that I can be so hard on myself to the point that I forget the good that happens or even the hard times I was able to transform into good ones. And in case you needed that reminder, please celebrate yourself today. You deserve it. We are all trying the best we can right now, I promise you. One of the things I did faithfully, though, was dancing in my kitchen by myself when things felt too heavy to carry. 1 minute, I'm cooking a delicious meal because who am I kidding? I'm a great cook. No, seriously, no. I'm a great cook and I can say that, right? Anyway, 1 minute I'm cooking a delicious meal and the next I'm on my knees on the floor crying, lamenting. I had no control over it, and sometimes for a moment I would think to myself, what if the neighbors hear me? Or my partner walks in on me like that on the floor wailing. Then I pause and I remind myself that it's okay for me to be this vulnerable and a total mess at times. It's okay. And trying to be perfect all the time is exhausting. My Virgos will understand. So, yeah, vulnerability can be terrifying. There's no doubt about it. But still, here we are. Because it can be one of the most rewarding experiences of life. I wouldn't have met the incredible people I have in my life right now, especially since I moved to Canada, if I hadn't had the courage to be this open and vulnerable, and most importantly, exist as this sensitive person who is no longer afraid to love and care so deeply and intimately. And here I am again today on this podcast, opening and revealing myself and my heart to you. in the hope of connecting with anyone who can recognize themselves in the word I share and anyone who might be having a hard time right now. And this conversation might as well be what they need the most in this current moment in time. And actually, since we're talking about vulnerability and our aim to show up here, I think now would be a good time to share again some of the reasons why I started this project in the first place for all the new listeners here. This version, I would say, is also different than the one I shared in my very first episode back in May, since it's been a few months and I've had time to reflect as well on where I want to go and how I want to grow with this. So I created this podcast to hold space for transformative and healing conversations, the kind that gently unravel old stories, awaken buried memories, witness aching truth, and the quiet inner knowing that calls us home to ourselves. My wishes for this platform, I feel very privileged to have access to become a soft landing spot for deep feelers, tender hearts, highly sensitive souls, and multifaceted beings craving more than surface level connections. This space is especially for those of us who live in the depths, those who are scared to fully feel and struggle to be present to themselves when they go through intense emotion. I call that sometimes being on an emotional roller coaster with abnormals, ups and downs. So here we look for a soft landing. Through heart-led storytelling, inner inquiry, body awareness, and emotional truth telling, this podcast invites you into an intimate dialogue with the deepest and most tender parts of you. And here I'm talking more specifically about the fragmented parts you've denied, abandoned due to shame, fear, self hatred, or simply out of survival to satisfy one of your most fundamental needs as a child or even a teenager, to be loved and belong. So it's even more so an invitation to those who have been told they are too much, meaning too emotional, too sensitive, too deep, you name it, to reclaim their wholeness. And even if you've never been called too much, this is also for you. The quietly courageous, seeking something deeper than what they're currently experiencing and how they show up in the world. I remember very clearly telling myself about, I believe 3 years ago now, that it has to be more to life than what I'm experiencing. And during that period, I was experiencing serious moments of depression and very few moments of joy, despite everything seemingly quote unquote going well for me. If someone was to look from the outside, I had everything to be grateful for. But there was still that lingering sadness and longing for something different, deeper, and real. I was thinking to myself quite often actually that success in life can't just be about the following that I'm going to cite. And again, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you aspire to. It's also good. But in my case, I felt like there should be more to life than that. Or like, success can't just be about that. So it can't just be about being born, going to school, graduating, getting a corporate 9 to 5, getting married, having kids, buying a home, all those things that we are sold at an early age as things we should aspire to in life in order to secure a happy, successful, and fulfilled life. Because you can have that and still not feel happy inside or fulfilled. And to me, it just couldn't be just it. And where I come from at the time, I wasn't seeing much dreaming beyond the imaginable because people were more focused on survival and what brings food on the table, which is completely understandable. And I've always wanted kid, I always wanted a family, and not bad, and there was a kind of longing as well. So what saved me from those depressive moments and kept me going, I guess, was that obviously my soul knew something I didn't and was yet to comprehend. The way I fought to stay alive used to be beyond my comprehension in the past, but now it makes so much sense. I felt lost for a very long time. But if there's one thing I never lost, is hope. Because my soul was always trying to steer me in the right direction, knowing that I would eventually find my way back home. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned that before, but early in life, although not everything was bad in my childhood, I should say that. Not everything was bad. The one thing I remember till this day, though, is that I was called different a lot. Most of the time felt too emotional, too sensitive, and not having learned how to be with that kind of sensitivity, I learned instead to dissociate from reality and disconnect from my own body. It felt easier to live that way, and since then I lost my core sense of self. And once you lose that, I believe you never truly feel good enough, worthy enough, and even loved for who you truly are, because you fall into people pleasing patterns and learn to attune to your caregiver's needs, moods, and reactivity, since love looks or feels transactional. The disconnect ended up manifesting in my life physically at a certain age when my body started shutting down literally. I remember the many days I was sick, and there was even that one time, if my memory serves me right, where I had to be carried to the hospital a little bit or for a while because I couldn't walk straight or I had to be held. And although later in life I had other experiences which further dysregulated my nervous system, those early experiences, like everybody else for that matter, have informed my belief systems and shaped the way I viewed myself for a very long time, therefore dictating how I constructed my identity and how I showed up in the world wearing so many different masks. Was I different, sensitive, emotional? Yes. But was that an inherently bad thing? Absolutely not. I just didn't have caregivers who were attuned to my emotional needs or who were emotionally regulated themselves enough since they were in survival mode. And unfortunately, I couldn't possibly know that as a child. Now I understand and I have compassion for them and the child that I was. So I ask you today, what are the stories you tell yourself about who you are? What are the negative scripts, narrative running your life? What are the stories within your womb that need witnessing and remembering? And what parts of you have you rejected, buried, abandoned? And what does the most expensive, wild, liberated version of yourself feels and look like? Think about it. There are many layers to my work actually, and if you check my website, you'll see what I'm talking about. But in this particular context, I will say this podcast is a call to remembrance of our body's wisdom, our emotional truth, and the liberation waiting within us. It is sacred remembrance work. Here we remember that our emotions are not burdens but portals, that our sensitivity is not a flaw but a guide. We embark on the journey back home to self, back to the truth behind the resistance, the body below the shutdown, the wisdom beneath the wounds. We explore the unseen, unspoken, and often forgotten stories within, the ones shaped by survival, shadow, and longing. And slowly remember who we truly are beneath the negative self talk and narratives. I want to help you break down the barriers to understanding how to truly hold space for yourself with tenderness and compassion while you entangle your old belief systems and patterns. Investigate internalized fears and collapse protective layers shaped by pain or programming. This is not about fixing what's broken because you are not. Look, me saying that is even making me emotional a little bit. The number of times I believed that I was broken and I would stay trapped in some relationships that I was in because, who else would love such a broken person? I used to feel sad for that younger version of me who felt like that for so long. I wish I could hug her right now. Maybe I could just hug myself. I'm so glad we are in a better place now. So, yeah, it's not about fixing what's broken, it's about remembering where you were before the world told you otherwise. And in case it is necessary for me to make it clear, these conversations are not therapy sessions, but I consider them to be healing still for me, and I hope for you too. They are here to offer some additional support on your own journey, since the goal is to foster emotional insight, self exploration, and a deeper understanding of how our past experiences and inner narratives shape the way we relate to ourselves and the world around us. I do not claim to have answers because I'm still in the trenches with you all, figuring out life and unraveling my own stories. I do, however, have a deep, deep reverence for the wisdom within you and I, waiting to be remembered and given a voice. So, Aquaba, you are in the right place if anything I shared earlier resonates with you. Please take a seat. And thank you for joining me on this ride. Now that's out of the way, let's get into it. I know we've been on the topic of grief for a while now, and please bear with me because I want to linger on it a little longer. Like I mentioned earlier, I've been navigating some grief lately and was forced to slow down. Slowing down also means I spend a lot of time journaling, trying to be aware and present with my body and my emotions. And like Victoria and I talked about, learning to be present with our grief fully, no matter how or when it shows up, is a process and a skill that we are still trying to master. We'll let you know how that goes. But for me personally, underneath every grief, there's an old story and a pain waiting to be witnessed and released. Maybe they've been waiting for years actually. In the past, I used to want to understand why because I thought it would help me figure out the how. To be honest, some grief I was experiencing at some point in my life didn't make sense to me at all. They felt way too heavy and ancient, it did not belong to me. And we also know that we tend to hold on to stories, pain, shame, guilt, and all these. Not only ours, but also our mothers and grandmothers in our womb. But over time, I stopped trying to make sense of the story, asking myself how old it is or if it's mine or my maternal lineage, etc. Because you know what? At the end of the day, it's not always helpful, especially when you get stuck there in the story. Throughout my healing journey, I learned that you don't always need to know or understand the story in order to heal or move on. So now instead, I make space for the pain and discomfort to just be what they are and sit with the grief for as long as I need to. Not be swallowed by it though. And those moments of complete surrender, even when my mind is like, wait, this is stupid, have felt like real expansion and heart opening moments. There are so many ways that I can, like right now, I'm thinking about that I can go about trying to talk to you about grief, believe me. But for this episode, I will focus specifically on the link between pain, grief, and self abandonment, and how I learned to recognize the patterns within myself. In this first part, though, I will not get too much into it because I want to try and keep this episode short. But also, before I go on and on about my own relationship with grief, I would like for you to get a bit more inquisitive about yours. I feel like grief knows me and I know grief intimately. But the tricky part is this relationship doesn't always come with words to be expressed. Most of the time, it's feelings and sensation needing to be felt. Occasionally, pain to be embraced and tears to be released, and that's it. And when there are words to express, the language doesn't always make sense to anybody but myself at first because I spent so much time with my grief over the years. It's incredible. And I know sometimes it's not always spontaneous. I don't feel grief in the moment I start crying or express it. It can look like actual scheduled time, let's say maybe in the evening in bed or alone, to feel the grief or the pain. I know it sounds a bit like a relationship with an actual human being, but sometimes, honestly, that's what it feels like. And because of that kind of tricky relationship or most intimate, in July, I had prepared a whole script on what I wanted to talk about during this episode. I even shared part of it with my partner at some point. But no matter how long I start with the text or tried to record, it didn't feel quite aligned to be shared. It was frustrating at the beginning, but then I realized that I was trying to share too early and force the words out of me, basically pressuring myself to publish something because it's been a long time. While all that was asked of me the past month was to be there for myself first. It would be hypocritical of me to preach, embodiment or authenticity when I can't even embody this when necessary. Anyway, now I know it wasn't the right time to share anything with anyone, while my own heart and womb needed consistent mending, tending, and repair. I had to develop some sort of devotional practice or rituals and make sure I stick to it this time around because I really needed it. So, although there are many times I wanted to jump on here and record, it always felt like something was missing from the message until actually last week when I was guided to throw that script out of the window completely and just let myself be moved differently and speak from the heart. I had to learn to be comfortable with going with the pace that my body was willing to go at. And before I share the story of what pain and grief taught me through heartbreak, I'm just really curious about how you are all doing right now. And if it's been a normal summer like all your other summers, or if this one felt different in any way. Not just because of what's going on in the world, which at this point is quite impossible to ignore. It's so loud out there. It feels so intense. But also, does that make you forget to pay enough attention to what's going on inside your body from time to time? Also, out of curiosity, if you are feeling grief right now, how are you tending to yourself? Are you able to make space for your grief to be seen, witnessed, acknowledged? I know I probably won't get to hear the answer since you are not live here with me, which is a bit of a bummer. But I hope my questions prompt you or invite you to take a moment, even just 5 minutes, to sit. Maybe right now you can pause this, or after you listen to it, just 5 minutes to be present with yourself and inquire with your body. And if you feel inclined to talk or share with someone outside your intimate circle, please feel free to send me an email. I would be happy to chat further. So that's all for today. I will see you again in about 2 weeks for part 2. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer and I hope life is being kind to you. As always, I would like to express my deepest gratitude for your presence, your open heart, and your listening ear. Medaya Munase, which means again, thank you in my mother tongue. Until next time, all my love.